Hello and welcome to the ninth episode of the series about medieval Asia. We've been exploring truly significant events and their impact, and today we're diving into a moment often misunderstood. The Siege of Baghdad in 1258. It wasn't just the fall of a city, it was the toppling of a symbol. To truly grasp the significance of this event, we need to understand the world in which it took place.
Baghdad in the 13th century was more than just a city. It was a global center of knowledge and culture, a beacon of the Islamic Golden Age. Think of a metropolis teeming with scholars, poets, astronomers, mathematicians, and artisans. Its libraries housed countless manuscripts, preserving ancient wisdom and fostering new discoveries. To give you a sense of scale, Baghdad's population rivaled that of major modern cities. Its influence stretched far beyond its walls, shaping the intellectual and artistic landscape of its time.
However, the Abbasid Caliphate, which ruled from Baghdad, had faced a long and complex history. It had risen to great heights, but by the 13th century, it had experienced periods of decline and fragmentation. While the caliphs retained a symbolic and spiritual authority, their political power had weakened, leaving them vulnerable to external threats. And on the horizon loomed a force unlike any the Islamic world had ever encountered. The Mongols.
The Mongols, under the leadership of Genghis Khan and his successors, had swept across Asia, leaving a trail of conquered lands and shattered empires in their wake. Their military prowess was legendary, their horsemen were renowned for their speed and agility, their archers for their accuracy and deadliness. They employed innovative tactics, including siege warfare, psychological warfare, and a complex system of communication and logistics. But their conquests were also marked by brutality and destruction, leaving a lasting impact on the populations they encountered.
One of the figures who played a pivotal role in this story is Hulagu, a grandson of Genghis Khan. He was tasked by his brother, the great Khan Munka, with a formidable mission to secure Persia and eliminate any potential threats to Mongol dominance in the region. This mission led Hulagu and his armies on a collision course with a group shrouded in mystery and feared for their deadly skills. The Ismaili Assassins. The Assassins, known formally as the Ismailis, were a Shia Muslim sect that had established a network of strongholds across Persia and Syria. They were masters of espionage, guerrilla warfare, and targeted assassinations, striking fear into the hearts of rulers and commanders. Their leader, often referred to as the Old Man of the Mountain, held both spiritual and political authority, commanding a devoted following, willing to carry out his orders, even at the gut of their own lives. Their tactics were often shrouded in secrecy, adding to their mystique and the terror they inspired. The assassins posed a direct challenge to Mongol expansion in the region. Their ability to strike unexpectedly and eliminate key figures made them a formidable adversary, even for the mighty Mongol army. To address this threat, Hulagu embarked on a campaign to dismantle the assassin strongholds. The sheer scale of his army was astonishing, with tens of thousands, possibly even hundreds of thousands, of soldiers under his command. His advance was slow and deliberate, a testament to both the Mongols' determination and the difficulty of the terrain they faced.
The assassins, aware of the impending Mongol threat, sought to preemptively neutralize their enemy in a daring and audacious move. They dispatched an estimated 400 agents all the way to Karakoram, the Mongol capital, deep within the heart of their empire. Their mission, to assassinate the great Khan Munka himself. This operation, whether successful or not, highlights the reach and audacity of the assassins. Their willingness to strike at the very heart of the Mongol Empire demonstrates the level of threat they posed, forcing the Mongols to take them seriously.
As these events unfolded, the Caliph in Baghdad, Al-Mustasim, faced a growing dilemma. He was the spiritual leader of the Islamic world, but his political authority was tenuous. The Mongol advance represented a potential existential threat, yet he seemed hesitant to fully commit to confronting them. This hesitation, or perhaps miscalculation, would have profound consequences.
The relationship between the Caliph and the Mongols was marked by tension and mistrust. Al-Mustasim had refused Hulagu's request to contribute troops for the campaign against the assassins. This refusal, seen as a sign of defiance or weakness, further strained relations. Moreover, the Caliph's perceived arrogance in his dealings with Hulagu's envoys added fuel to the fire. It was a dangerous game of brinkmanship, one that the Caliph seemed ill-equipped to play.
Hulagu's first letter to the Caliph was a masterpiece of intimidation. Laced with veiled threats and a thinly disguised impatience, it laid bare the power dynamic at play, reminding Al-Mustasim of the fate that awaited those who defied the Mongols. Yet the Caliph seemed to cling to a belief in Islamic unity against a common enemy, a unity that, in reality, did not exist.
The Islamic world at that time was deeply divided. Fractured along sectarian and political lines, the caliph's authority was recognized by some, but challenged by others. This fragmentation, a product of decades of internal conflicts and shifting power dynamics, made it impossible for the Islamic world to present a united front against the Mongol threat. This reality, however, seemed lost on the caliph and his advisors, further exacerbating the crisis.
The question of the caliph's advisors and their role in this unfolding drama adds another layer of complexity. Were they incompetent, blinded by their own ambitions, or did some harbor ulterior motives, possibly even colluding with the approaching Mongols? History offers no easy answers. This uncertainty surrounding their intentions casts a long shadow over the events leading up to the siege, leaving us to wonder if different counsel could have averted disaster.
With the stage set. With a powerful Mongol force under a determined Hulagu marching towards a seemingly paralyzed Baghdad, the pieces were in place for a confrontation that would alter the course of history. The clash between these two powers, the ensuing siege, and its aftermath would have profound and lasting consequences, not only for Baghdad and the Islamic world, but for the broader trajectory of Eurasian history.
And that confrontation, the siege itself, was a fascinating display of military might and strategy. We'll delve into that in the next part of our deep dive.
The Mongol advance on Baghdad was a meticulously planned operation, reflecting their mastery of military strategy and logistics. Hulagu, unlike some of his predecessors, did not believe in reckless haste. He understood that a city like Baghdad, with its formidable fortifications and vast population, required a calculated and methodical approach. He chose to encircle the city, cutting off its supply lines and isolating it from potential reinforcements.
Hulagu's army was not simply a horde of Mongol horsemen. It was a diverse and well-equipped force, drawing on the vast resources of the Mongol Empire.
Contingents from the Golden Horde, a powerful Mongol Khanate that controlled much of Russia and Eastern Europe, were present, bringing with them their experience in siege warfare. Vassal armies from Armenia and Georgia, eager to demonstrate their loyalty to their Mongol overlords, also participated.
Perhaps most crucial to the Mongol war effort were their expert siege engineers, many of whom hailed from China, a civilization with a long and sophisticated tradition of military technology. These engineers were adept at constructing and operating powerful siege weapons, such as catapults, trebuchets, and battering rams, capable of breaching the thickest walls.
They also excelled in the art of mining, digging tunnels beneath enemy fortifications to undermine their foundations.
The Mongols, known for their psychological warfare tactics, employed a variety of methods to demoralize their enemies and weaken their resolve. They sent messages into the city, promising safety and leniency to those who surrendered, while threatening those who resisted with utter destruction. This tactic aimed to sow seeds of doubt and discord among the defenders, potentially leading to internal conflicts and a willingness to capitulate.
This psychological warfare, coupled with the Mongols' demonstrably superior military capabilities, had a profound impact on the morale of the defenders. The Abased Army, while numerically significant, was poorly equipped and lacked the training and discipline of their Mongol adversaries. Chroniclers of the time describe a pervasive sense of fear and despair within the city, with many citizens believing that resistance was futile.
There is a particularly telling episode that illustrates the challenges faced by the defenders, the Abbasid Army, attempting to counter the Mongol siege, set up a fortified camp outside the city walls. However, a sudden flood, possibly engineered by the Mongols, who were known for their mastery of manipulating water sources, inundated the camp, scattering the defenders and disrupting their plans.
This incident, whether due to Mongol ingenuity or simply misfortune, underscores the multiple disadvantages faced by the Abbasid forces. They were outmatched in terms of tactics, technology, and sheer determination.
As the siege progressed, the Mongol siege engines began to take their toll. The city's once impregnable walls, under a relentless bombardment, began to crumble, leaving Baghdad vulnerable to a full-scale assault.
The final assault on Baghdad was a brutal and decisive affair. Mongol forces, exploiting breaches in the city's defenses, poured into the city, overwhelming the remaining defenders. Despite desperate attempts by the Caliph to negotiate a surrender, Hulagu was unyielding. He had come to Baghdad not to parley, but to conquer.
The fall of the city marked a turning point in the history of the Islamic world.
Hulagu, upon entering Baghdad, unleashed a wave of violence and destruction. His forces, fueled by years of campaigning and a thirst for plunder, sacked the city, libraries were burned, palaces looted, and mosques desecrated. The streets ran red with blood, as soldiers and civilians alike were put to the sword.
Chroniclers paint a horrific picture of the carnage, a testament to the brutality of Mongol warfare. Amidst this chaos, there are accounts of Mongol soldiers marking certain doors, possibly those belonging to Christians or other non-Muslim communities. As a sign of protection, this detail, while providing a sliver of humanity in a dark chapter, also highlights the calculated nature of Mongol violence. It suggests that their brutality was not simply random, but often targeted and strategic.
Estimating the death toll from the siege is a challenging task. Contemporary accounts, often exaggerated or biased, offer a wide range of figures. Some chroniclers claim that over 1 million people perished, while more conservative estimates suggest hundreds of thousands. Regardless of the precise number, the scale of the slaughter was immense, leaving a lasting scar on the city's psyche.
Adding to the tragedy, there are reports of a plague outbreak in the aftermath of the siege. The combination of a large influx of people, unsanitary conditions, and the disruption of essential services created a breeding ground for disease. This plague, likely bubonic, further decimated the city's population, compounding the devastation wrought by the Mongols.
With Baghdad in ruins and its population decimated, the fate of the Caliph Al-Musta'sim becomes a focal point. His capture and subsequent execution marked not only the end of his rule, but also the symbolic destruction of the Abbasid Caliphate's authority. This event sent shockwaves throughout the Islamic world and beyond, marking the end of an era.
Al-Mustasim's final days were a tragic spectacle. Stripped of his power and dignity, he was forced to reveal the location of his hidden treasures, and subjected to Hulagu's mocking hospitality. There is a chilling anecdote of a banquet where Hulagu, surrounded by his Mongol warriors, forced the caliph to watch as his treasures were paraded before him, a cruel display of dominance and humiliation.
The manner of the caliph's death is shrouded in some uncertainty. Some accounts claim that he was wrapped in a carpet and trampled by horses, a method consistent with Mongol customs, designed to avoid spilling royal blood, which they considered taboo. Others suggest that he was starved to death, locked in a room filled with his riches, a more symbolic demise, highlighting the fleeting nature of worldly possessions.
Regardless of the exact method, Hulagu's decision to execute the caliph was a deliberate and symbolic act. It was a message to the Islamic world, and indeed to all who dared to oppose the Mongols, that no ruler, however powerful or prestigious, was immune to their wrath. It was a decisive act that aimed to shatter the aura of invincibility that had surrounded the caliphate for centuries.
The execution of the caliph raises the question of those who may have collaborated with the Mongols, individuals who, for reasons of self-preservation, ambition, or perhaps a genuine belief that accommodation was preferable to resistance, chose to side with the invaders. One such figure is Al-Alqami, the caliph's vizier, a controversial figure whose role in the events leading up to the siege remains a subject of debate.
Was Al-Alqami a traitor? A man who betrayed his caliph and his city for personal gain, or was he a pragmatist? A man who saw the writing on the wall and sought to minimize the bloodshed and destruction by urging a course of diplomacy and appeasement.
History offers no easy answers.
His actions, like those of many others caught in the maelstrom of the Mongol conquests, were likely driven by a complex mix of motives.
It is tempting in hindsight to view the fall of Baghdad as a singular, catastrophic event that extinguished the Islamic Golden Age. However, such a view oversimplifies a complex historical process. While the siege of 1258 was undoubtedly a watershed moment, it was not the sole factor that led to the decline of Baghdad and the Abbasid Caliphate.
Baghdad, in the years following the siege, did experience a degree of recovery. Its strategic location and its role as a center of trade ensured that it would not simply vanish. However, its position as the unrivaled metropolis of the Islamic world was irrevocably diminished. New centers of power emerged, and Baghdad's influence waned.
Moreover, subsequent events such as Timur's conquests in the late 14th century and the Ottoman sack of Baghdad in the 16th century further contributed to the city's decline. These events, often overlooked in popular narratives that focus solely on the Mongol siege, highlight the multifaceted nature of historical change.
The siege of 1258 was a turning point, a moment of profound upheaval and destruction. But it was not the end of the story. The Abbasid Caliphate itself did not completely vanish.
A shadow of the caliphate persisted in Cairo under the Mamluks, a dynasty of slave soldiers who had risen to prominence in Egypt and Syria. However, this Cairo-based caliphate never regained the political or spiritual authority of its Baghdad predecessors. Eventually, the Abbasid Caliphate in Cairo was absorbed by the Ottoman Empire, a rising power that had conquered much of the Eastern Mediterranean and North Africa. The Ottoman sultans claimed the title of caliph, positioning themselves as the leaders of the Islamic world. This claim, while contested by some, would endure for centuries, until the abolition of the caliphate by the Turkish Republic in 1924.
The story of the Siege of Baghdad and its aftermath is a complex and multifaceted one, filled with intrigue, tragedy, and resilience. It is a reminder that history rarely follows a linear path, that even the most powerful empires can fall, and that human ambition, both for good and for ill, can reshape the course of civilizations.
And that concludes our deep dive into the Siege of Baghdad. We hope this exploration has provided you with a deeper understanding of this pivotal event and its lasting impact.
The story of the Siege of Baghdad serves as a reminder of the complexities of history. It challenges us to look beyond simplistic narratives of decline and fall, and to appreciate the interplay of multiple factors that shape the destinies of civilizations.
The fall of Baghdad in 1258 serves as a potent symbol of the destructive power of conflict. It reminds us of the fragility of human achievements and the enduring consequences of violence and intolerance.
The events we've discussed in this deep dive offer valuable lessons for us today. They underscore the importance of understanding the past, appreciating the interconnectedness of cultures, and striving for peaceful coexistence in a world often marked by division and strife.
History, when studied carefully and with an open mind, can provide us with insights into the human condition, can help us to understand the forces that shape our world, the challenges we face, and the possibilities that lie before us.
We encourage you, our listeners, to continue exploring this fascinating period of history. There are countless books, articles, and online resources available that can deepen your understanding of the Siege of Baghdad, the Mongol conquests, and the Islamic world in the Middle Ages.
If you have any thoughts, questions, or even sources you find fascinating about the Siege of Baghdad, or any other aspect of medieval Asia, please don't hesitate to share them with us. We're always eager to learn and explore new avenues of history with you.
We want to thank you for joining us on this journey through history. We hope you found this deep dive into the Siege of Baghdad informative and engaging.
And be sure to follow